samsaradava nalaliraloka tranaya karuna gana ganatvam praptasya kalyana gunanavasya vande guru shri charanaravinda Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyan Manasorasena Romancha Kampa Shutaranga Vajyo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shri Vigrahara Dana Nitya Nana Shingaratan Mandiramarjanado Yuktasya Bhaktam Saniyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Chaturvida Shri Bhagavat Prasada Swadana Triptan Haribaksha Sanghan Kritraiva Triptim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Shri Radhika Madhavayorapara Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namnam Pratikshanaasvadanalolupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda Nikunjayo no ratikeli sedhai Yayali bir yukti rapekshaniya Tatrati dakshar ativallabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda साक्षादारित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भाव्यतेव साधि किन्तु प्रभोर्य प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादा भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादा नगति कुतोऽपि जयं सुवां तस्य यशस्विसाद्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद चैतन्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद चैतन्य Nityananda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Neelamadava, Radha Neelamadava, Radhe. Jaya Radha Neelamadava, Radha Neelamadava, Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jai Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Jai Guru Deva. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Om Shripad Brahmamsa Pradikacharya Ashtota Shatashi Shrimad Divine Grace Aparchana Vrinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya PBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Brahmamsa Pradika Acharya Ashtota Shatashi Shrimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavana Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridasa Thakur Ki Jai. Premise Koho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Dada Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Garodhan Ki Jai. Shri Brada Bhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Maya Pranava Dvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Srila Gurudev Avirbhava Mahosava Ki Jai. Tamal Krishna Goswami Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glory to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadaine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha. शिलतन खान खालाए ही तो नरसिम्हा पर तो नरसिम्हा यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिम्हा बहिर्नरसिंहो हृदये नरसिंहो नरसिंहमदें शरणं प्रपदे तव कर कमल वरे नाखाम अद्भुत श्रृंगाम दालिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृंगाम केशवदिर्ता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवदिर्ता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो नरसिंहदेव जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो भक्त प्रहलाद जयो प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव भक्ति विघ्न विनाशन नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल
वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णुपातिपते देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः
वृद्धाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णुभक्तिपते देवी सत्यवताय
वृंदाय तुलसीदेवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य च विष्णुपातिपते देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः
वृद्धाय
प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो ये अभिलाषी राधा कृष्ण सेवा पाबो ये अभिलाषी मार शरणलो तारा वंश पूर्ण हो कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोरा ये अभिलाष विलास कुंजे दियो वास नयने हेरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि निवेदन दरो साखीरानुगत करो सेवाधिकार दिए करो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दासे कोई ये न मोरा होय श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नवासी श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये नवासी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पादे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पादे पदे च पापानि ब्रह्माहच्चाधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहच्चाधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय वृंदे देवी जय वृंदे देवी जय वृंदे देवी जय वृंदे देवी जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्तवत्ताय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्तवत्ताय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देव्याय प्रियाय केशवस्य च कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्तवत्ताय नमो नमः
O Tulasi, beloved of Krishna, I bow down before you again and again. My desire is in the service of Sri Radha and Krishna. Wherever picture of you have wished fulfilled, please have mercy upon him and make my residence in Vrindavan. My desire is also grant me residence in the precious girl Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my wish I shall always behold the beautiful person Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me follow a powerful dancer virgin. Please give me the privilege devotional service and make me own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in the love, Shishirata and Govinda, Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name the demigods like Lord Shiva, Brahma, to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuing the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities and strength of chanting holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of our special ritualist activities, offering the Vedas fruity activities, karma, ganda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glorious holy name. 10. To not complete faith in the chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachment in understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us have a most humble obeisances on all the Vaishnava devotees.
Their full compassion for
Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Cheto Tarpana Marjanam Bhavamahadavagni Nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chantrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Putivardhanam Pratipatam Purunarmita Swadanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuta Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Smaranina Kalaha Etadishi Tavakripa Bhagavam Mamapi Durudevami Disham Yahajani Nanurakaha Trinatapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amanina Manatena Kirtanya Sada Harihi Na Thanam Na Chanam Na Sundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Jammani Jammanishvare Bhavata Bhaktir Haituki Tvai Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Pavam Puta Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sthitaturi Satesham Vichintaya Nayanam Karatashuru Taraya Vatanam Katkata Rudaya Gira Pulakai Nichitam Vapur Kata Tava Nama Karhane Bhavishati Yuga itam nimishena chakshusha pravisha itam shunya itam chaka sarvam govinda virahe name ashrisava padaratam pinnastumam adarshanam marmhatam karotuva yatha tatha va vidathatu lampato madprana nathastu se eva na paraha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Glory to
Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss. It enables us to fully taste the nectar for which you are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, and devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do you desire beautiful women, nor do you want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I fall into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean earth and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up? And when will the hairs of my body stand on the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all awakened in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so if he handles me roughly with his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always
for
my
he is my
worshipful Lord,
worshipful Lord
unconditionally.
unconditionally. Shri
Shri Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Sita.
Siksastakam Ki Jai Guru Premanandi Haribo Haribo Haribo. Shri Guru Pranama prayers Ki Jai. Om Aganya Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Yimlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatahapachakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sa Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaguna Lalita Shri Visakha Nivitam Sa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namani Shiva Savani Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujvala Primadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhakti Da Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudaba Abhisidanta Dvantaharine Namo Guru Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambhade Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Vrayate Gora Vir Baba Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Sri Jaganatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Turabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Guru Tuse Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avatanam Bhakta Kam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tam Juratur Bangur Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvaswa Padambojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpadumadaha Shrimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Bihi Sevyamana Smarami Shriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsivata Tatastita Karsan Venuswaner Gobir Gopinatak Striyesnuna Tapta Kanchana Gurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanus Tute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Guru Pranama prayers Ki Jai Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakarasatma Sukalpa Vriksha Laksha Vrite Susuravira Paliantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam Brahma Sevyamanam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kvanandam Aravinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shamam Tribangalalita Nita Prakasam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti pasyanti pantika yanti chiram jaganti. Ananda chinmaya sadujvala vigrahasya govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami. Advaitam achyutam anadim anantarupam adyam purana purisham naviyovanam cha. Vedesa durlabham adurlabham atma bhakto govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami. Pantastu koti satavatsara sampragamyo vayo ratapi manaso manipungamanam. Sopyasti yad prapadasimya vichintya tattve govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami. Ekopya sora chayatum jagranda kotim yaschaktirasti jagranda chayayadanta adantarasta paramanu chayantarastam govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami. Yad bhava bhavita diyo manijasta taiva samprapya rupa mahima sanayana bhusa suktayameva nigama pratitastavanti govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami. Ananda chinmaya rasa pratipavita bhistabhirya eva nicha rupa taya kalabi koloka eva nivasata kilatma bhuto govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami. Vemanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santaksa deva hidesa vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami. Ramadi murti sukala nimenitistan nanavataram akarod bhuvane sukintu Krishna swayam samabhavat paramam pamamyo govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cow, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Sham Sundar is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure, unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas, by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities in the company of her confidants, Shakis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shama Sundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts, with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world, in the forms of Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions. Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai. Glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmad Asya Yato Niviyat Itaratas Chartesu Avigyaswarat Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavaye Uyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Varimadam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisago Misha Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. O my Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of three modes of material nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2. Dharma projita kaitravotra nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shividam tapo trayon mulanam. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Purir Ishwaraha Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate Trakriti Bihi Sususubhistaksana. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva, in its maturity is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture when, as soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.3 Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam Sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam Pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam Muhur ahor raska bhuvibhavukaha. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the Dzaratu Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Shrimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Disatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So yesterday was really interesting. We saw yesterday how Rabindranath Tagore completely confused Einstein. It's unbelievable. Because Tagore is a much greater Mayavadi than Einstein. Einstein was all hodgepodge nonsense. Tagore just circumambulated him with different layers of Mayavad philosophy, and finally Einstein said, well, I can't prove anything, but I believe. I believe. So in other words, Einstein was completely confused by Tagore, because Tagore is a super Mayavadi, a nonsense person, more nonsense than Einstein. Einstein is actually not really a good philosopher. You might know something. You might know a lot about mathematics, but Tagore just completely bewildered him. It's amazing. And we see, the fact that Einstein, because he wasn't a devotee, because he didn't believe in the existence of God, we went through all the different things he didn't accept as, and completely different than Krishna consciousness. That's why he met Tagore, and Tagore confused him totally. Right? It's just amazing. Most people don't know these things. Of course, we were fortunate enough to hear the defeat of Einstein and the complete nonsense of Tagore, who speaks all kinds of Mayavad philosophy and confuses people. Right? Okay, so we're beginning now chapter 10, Canto 3, chapter 9. I'm sorry, chapter 10, verse number 1. Vidura uvacha antarhite bhagavati brahmaloka pitamaha praja sasarja katida dahikir manasir vibhu. Vidura uvacha. She Vidura said, Antarhite, after the disappearance, Bhagavati, of the personality of Godhead, Brahma, the first created living being, Loka Pitamaha, the grandfather of all planetary inhabitants, Praja, generations, Sasarja, created, Katida, how many, Dahiki, from his body, Manasti, from his mind, Vibhu, the great. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Shividura said, O great sage, he's asking questions of Maitreya Muni, please let me know how Brahma, the grandfather of the planetary inhabitants, created the bodies of the living entities from his own body and mind after the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 2. Yacha me Bhagavan Pristas Tvai Artha Bahuvitama Tan Vidasvanupurvyena Chindina Sarva Samsayan. Yea, all those. Cha, also. May, by me. Bhagavan, O powerful one. Prishta, inquired. Tvai, unto you. Artha, purpose. Bahuvittama, O greatly learned one. Tan, all of them. Vadasva, kindly describe. Anupurvenya, from beginning to end. Chindi, kindly eradicate. Na, my. Sarva, all. Samsayan, doubts. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. O greatly learned one, kindly eradicate all my doubts, and let me know of all that I have inquired from you from the beginning to the end. Purport. Vidura asked all relevant questions of Maitreya because he knew well that Maitreya was the right person to reply to all the points of his inquiries. One must be confident about the qualifications of his teacher. One should not approach a layman for replies to specific spiritual inquiries. Such inquiries, when replied to with imaginative answers by the teacher, are a program for wasting time. Whoa. Very important verse. So, before someone accepts a spiritual master, they have to be sure that the spiritual master or the potential spiritual master is actually bona fide. Does the spiritual master follow the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness? Is he properly initiated? Is he or she repeating Shastra and not adding or subtracting from it? Simply repeating it correctly. Is the potential guru showing the disciple where the Shastric evidence is being spoken in the Shastra, right? So you say, well, the Brahma was he was confused about what his purpose is in life, and he was trying to find out what, because the creation hadn't been done yet. He was confused, and he heard the words tapa, and then he began to meditate because he could remember from his previous life what tapa meant, and he engaged in austerities, and eventually he was able to see the Lord and be instructed by the Lord. Well, someone could say, well, where's that explained? You have to be able to show them. You have a right to say, where's that explained? And the potential guru has to be able to point out where in the Shastra these points are being made. Not that, well, I just take it for granted, I know where it is. No, you have to be able to show it. The disciple has to be sure that they're being taught correctly and based on Shastric evidence and the statements of the acharyas, and ultimately repeating the original statements of Lord Krishna. So therefore it says here, Vidura asked all relevant questions of Maitreya because he knew well that Maitreya was the right person to reply to all the points of his inquiries. One must be confident about the qualifications of his teacher. One should not approach a layman for replies to specific spiritual inquiries. Such inquiries, when replied to with imaginative answers by the teacher, are a program for wasting time. So Prabhupada is not mincing his words. He's being very specific here. Accepting a guru is a very serious thing, and one must be sure that the potential guru is bona fide. Okay, text number 3. Sutta Uvacha Evam sanchoditastena Shatra Kosar Ravir Muni Prita Pratyaha Tan Prasnan Hidistan Atabargava Sutta Uvacha. Shri Sutta Goswami said, Evam, thus, Sanchodita, being enlivened, Tena, by him, Chatra, by Vidura, Kosar Ravi, the son of Kushara, Muni, great sage, Prita, being pleased, Pratyaha, Prasnan, questions, Hridistan, from the core of his heart, Ata, thus, Bhargava, O son of Bhrigu. Sutta Goswami said, O son of Bhrigu, the great sage Maitreya Muni, thus, hearing from Vidura, felt very much enlivened. Everything was in his heart, and thus he began to reply to the questions one after another. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The phrase Sutta Uvacha, Sutta Goswami said, appears to indicate a break in the discourse between Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami. While Sukadeva Goswami was speaking to Maharaj Parikshit, Sutta Goswami was only one member of a larger audience, but Sutta Goswami was speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya, headed by the sage Sonaka, a descendant of Sukadeva Goswami. This, however, does not make any substantial difference in the topics under discussion. So you see there's 3 levels here. There is Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. There is Sutta Goswami speaking, who heard this, and Sutta Goswami was speaking to the sages in Naimisharanya, and those sages were headed by Sonaka Rishi, a descendant of Sukadeva Goswami. So there's different levels here of discussion going on. But it doesn't, it says it doesn't make any substantial difference in the topics under discussion. Very interesting. So one thing I wanted to talk about today, and we don't have much time, but Bhrigu Muni is mentioned here. Now we've spoken about Bhrigu Muni before, but I want to read something from chapter 89 of the Krishna book. And chapter 89 is called Super Excellent Power of Krishna. And it says, long, long ago, there was an assembly of great sages on the bank of the river Saraswati. The river Saraswati is not visible anymore, although it's still there, but you can't see it. On the bank of the river Saraswati, who performed a great sacrifice of the name Satra. In such assemblies, the great sages present usually discuss Vedic subject matters and philosophical topics. And in this particular meeting, the following question was raised. The three predominating deities of this material world, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, are directing all the affairs of this cosmos. Yeah, they're in charge of all the supernatural powers of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But who among them, those three, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? After much discussion on this question, the great sage named Bhrigu, the son of Lord Brahma, was deputed to test all three predominating deities and report to the assembly as to who is the greatest. So you see, this question was asked in very ancient times, and eventually it was answered. And still today people are arguing. Well, no, Shiva is God. No, Brahma is God. No, this one is God. No, my next door neighbor is God. They're still trying to figure out who is the supreme God. Being thus deputed, the great sage Bhrigu Muni first of all went to his father's residence in Brahmaloka. The three deities are the controllers of the three material qualities, namely the qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance. The plan decided upon by the sages was for Bhrigu to test which one of the predominating deities possesses the quality of goodness in full. Therefore, when Bhrigu Muni reached his father, Lord Brahma, because Bhrigu wanted to test whether Brahma had the quality of goodness, he purposely did not offer his respects to his father, either by offering obeisances or by offering prayers. It is the duty of a son or a disciple to offer respects and recite suitable prayers when he approaches his father or spiritual master. But Bhrigu Muni purposely failed to offer respects just to see Lord Brahma's reaction to his negligence. Lord Brahma was very angry and at his son's impudence, in other words, his lack of respect. And he showed signs which definitely proved this to be so. He was even prepared to condemn Bhrigu by cursing him. But because Bhrigu was his son, Lord Brahma controlled his anger with his great intelligence. This means that although the quality of passion was prominent in Lord Brahma, he had the power to control it. Lord Brahma's anger and his controlling his anger are likened to fire and water. Water is produced from fire at the beginning of creation, but fire can be extinguished with water. Similarly, although Lord Brahma was very angry due to this quality of passion, he could still control his passion because Bhrigu was his son. So, Bhrigu's, disrespect of Brahma was what you would call an offense by his mind, because he did not give respect to Brahma. After testing Lord Brahma, Bhrigu Muni went directly to Mount Kailash, where Lord Shiva resides. Bhrigu happened to be Lord Shiva's brother. Yeah, they're both Brahma, and they're both born of Brahma, Bhrigu Muni and Shiva. Bhrigu Muni happened to be Lord Shiva's brother. Therefore, as soon as Bhrigu Muni approached, Lord Shiva was very glad and personally rose to embrace him. But when Lord Shiva approached, Bhrigu Muni refused to embrace him. "My dear brother," he said, "you are always very impure because you smear your body with ashes. You are not very clean. Please do not touch me." When Bhrigu Muni refused to embrace his brother, saying that Lord Shiva was impure, the latter, or Lord Shiva, became very angry with him. It is said that an offense can be committed either with the body, with the mind, or by speech. Bhrigu Muni's first offense committed toward Lord Brahma was an offense with the mind. His second offense, committed toward Lord Shiva by insulting him, criticizing him for unclean habits, was an offense by speech. Because the quality of ignorance is prominent in Lord Shiva, when he heard Brigu's insult, his eyes immediately became red with anger. With uncontrollable rage, he took up his trident and prepared to kill Bhrigu Muni. At that time, Lord Shiva's wife, Parvati, was present. Her personality, like Lord Shiva's, is a mixture of the three qualities, and therefore she is called Trigunamayi. In this case, she saved the situation by evoking Lord Shiva's quality of goodness. She fell down at the feet of her husband, and with her sweet words, she talked him out of killing Bhrigu Muni. After being saved from the anger of Lord Shiva, Bhrigu Muni went directly to the planet Svetadvipa, where Lord Vishnu was lying on a bed of flowers in the company of his wife, the goddess of fortune, who was engaged in massaging his lotus feet. So Svetadvipa is an island in the ocean of milk somewhere in the material creation. And this Vishnu is Kshirodaksha Vishnu, who is also the super soul. Right? So, there Bhrigu Muni purposely committed the greatest sin by offending Lord Vishnu by his bodily activities. The first offense committed by Bhrigu Muni was mental. The second offense was vocal. And the third offense was corporal. These different offenses are progressively greater in degree. An offense committed within the mind is a positive offense. The same offense committed verbally is comparatively more grave. And when committed by bodily action, it is superlative in offensiveness. So Bhrigu Muni committed the greatest offense by kicking the chest of the Lord with his foot in the presence of the goddess of fortune. Of course, Lord Vishnu is all merciful. He did not become angry at the activities of Bhrigu Muni, for Bhrigu Muni was a great Brahmana. A Brahmana is to be excused even if he sometimes commits an offense, and Lord Vishnu set the example. Yet it is said that from the time of this incident, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, has not been very favorably disposed toward the Brahmanas, and therefore, because the goddess of fortune withholds her benedictions from them, the Brahmanas are generally very poor. Bhrigu Muni's kicking the chest of Lord Vishnu with his foot was certainly a great offense, but Lord Vishnu is so great that he did not care. The so-called Brahmanas of the Kali Yuga are sometimes very proud that a great Brahmana like Bhrigu Muni could touch the chest of Lord Vishnu with his foot. But in fact, when Bhrigu Muni kicked the chest of Lord Vishnu with his foot, it was the greatest offense, although Lord Vishnu, being greatly magnanimous, did not take it very seriously. Instead of being angry or cursing Bhrigu Muni, Lord Vishnu immediately got up from his bed, along with his wife, the goddess of fortune, and offered respectful obeisances to the Brahmana. He addressed Bhrigu Muni as follows: "My dear Brahmana, it is my greatest fortune that you have come here. Please, therefore, sit down on this cushion for a few minutes. My dear Brahmana, I am very sorry that when you first entered my home, I could not receive you properly. It was a great offense on my part, and I beg you to pardon me. You are so pure and great that the water which washes your feet can purify even the places of pilgrimage. Therefore, I request you to purify the Vaikuntha planet, where I live with my associates. My dear father, O great sage, I know that your feet are very soft, like a lotus flower, and that my chest is as hard as a thunderbolt. I am therefore afraid that you may have felt some pain by kicking my chest with your feet. Let me touch your feet to relieve the pain you have suffered." Lord Vishnu then began to massage the feet of Bhrigu Muni. This is amazing. This is unbelievable. The Lord continued to address Brigamuni. My dearest Lord, he said, my chest has now become sanctified because of the touch of your feet. I am now assured that the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, will be very glad to live there perpetually. Another name of Lakshmi is Chanchala, indicating that she does not stay in one place for a long time. Therefore, we see that a rich man's family sometimes becomes poor after a few generations, and sometimes we see that a poor man's family becomes very rich. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is Chanchala in this material world, whereas in the Vaikuntha planet she eternally lives at the lotus feet of the Lord. Because Lakshmi is famous as Chanchala, Lord Narayana indicated that she might not have been living perpetually by his chest, but because his chest had been touched by the feet of Brigamuni, it was now sanctified, and there was no chance that the goddess of fortune would leave. Brigamuni, however, could understand his position and that of the Lord, and he was struck with wonder at the behavior of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of his gratitude, his voice choked up, and he was unable to reply to the words of the Lord. Tears glided from his eyes, and he could not say anything. He simply stood silently before the Lord. After testing Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, Brigamuni returned to the assembly of great sages on the bank of the river Saraswati and described his experience. After hearing him with great attention, the sages concluded that of all the predominating deities, Lord Vishnu is certainly the greatest. In Srimad Bhagavatam, these three great sages are described as Brahma Vadinam. Brahma Vadinam means those who talk about the absolute truth but have not yet come to a conclusion. Generally, Brahmavadi refers to the impersonalists or to those who are students of the Vedas. It is to be understood, therefore, that all the gathered sages were serious students of the Vedic literature, but had not come to definite conclusions as to who is the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead. But after hearing of Brigamuni's experience in meeting all three predominating deities, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Lord Vishnu, the sages concluded that Lord Vishnu is the supreme truth, the personality of Godhead. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam that after hearing the details from Brigamuni, the sages were astonished because although Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva were immediately agitated, Lord Vishnu, in spite of being kicked by Brigamuni, was not agitated in the least. The example is given that small lamps may be agitated by a slight breeze, but the greatest lamp, or the greatest illuminating source, the sun, is never moved, even by the greatest hurricane. One's greatness has to be estimated by one's ability to tolerate provoking situations. This is our lesson today. One's greatness has to be estimated by one's ability to tolerate provoking situations. The sages gathered on the bank of the river Saraswati concluded that if one wants actual peace and freedom from all fear, he should take shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu. Since Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva lost their peaceful attitude upon a slight provocation, how can they maintain the peace and tranquility of their devotees? As for Lord Vishnu, however, it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that anyone who accepts Lord Vishnu or Krishna as the supreme friend attains the highest perfection of peaceful life. There it is. This was settled hundreds, millions of years ago, and people are still arguing today. You see how misfortunate people are. But one's greatness has to be estimated by one's ability to tolerate provoking situations. This is very important because we're always going to be harassed by provoking or difficult situations. If we have complete faith in Krishna, we will not be disturbed. Although we may not know what the actual outcome is going to be, we have faith that the Lord is the supreme controller, and as long as we follow in his instructions, that he will protect us, and we'll be able to continue in our devotional service without hindrance. This must be our conviction. So, can we actually do this? That is, the ability to tolerate provoking situations. Yes, because you continue to chant, you continue to take prasadam, you continue to hear the classes in which all these important points are made and repeated. Then you have faith. I can completely trust Lord Vishnu or Krishna, and I'm not going to be intimidated by Maya and the different obstacles she puts in front of me. She's just testing me. She's the servant of Krishna. We're both on the same side, actually. I'm a servant of Krishna. She's a servant of Krishna. But I'm being tested, and I'm not going to be intimidated, no matter how severe the test is. So, this ability to tolerate difficult situations is a sign of greatness of a person. So we see the examples given by Lord Vishnu himself. He tolerated the most severe insult of Brigamuni, and Brigamuni was overwhelmed. He couldn't imagine that anyone could be so gentle and so kind. Right? This is real knowledge. This is real Krishna consciousness. We have to have faith that following the examples of people tolerated unbelievable problems because of his complete faith in his Guru and Krishna. So let's stop right there. This is a very important lesson to learn. And our example is Prabhupada himself, who was, and tomorrow I'm going to speak about what's called the Acharya test. Because the higher or more advanced you become, the more severe the test may be. What could be more severe than to have 2 heart attacks on a boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with no doctor or hospital present? You tell me. There can't be anything worse than that. But Prabhupada was able to survive that. And it was because Krishna was protecting him. Right? So tomorrow I'm going to talk about the Acharya test, which is the most severe test. The farther you make advancement, the more severe the test becomes, to make sure we're actually qualified to go back to Godhead. Haribol. All glories to Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions? So if people are arguing today who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, you can tell them clearly, look, this was settled millions of years ago by Brigamuni and the great sages.
Yeah, Maharaj, you said Brigamuni is the brother of Shiva.
Yeah.
But isn't it Shiva has his own abode? He's not,
But it appears that he is born of Brahma.
One time, because Brahma goes away and so he comes back again and again, right? Different Brahma. But whereas Shiva is there all the time.
Yes.
Then how can he be brother of Brigamuni? Because different Brahmas comes, but Shiva is the same.
Because he appears
First time
as if he's the son of Brahma.
he appears. Yeah.
Just like you, Just like Lord Krishna appears. Yeah. He appears as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. Right. Does that mean that?
Yeah.
Right.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
Same thing with Lord Shiva.
Yeah. And the first one, it talks about, in the sloka it never mentions who Vidura is speaking, but how did they come to
Maitreya.
the conclusion?
Maitreya.
But does it say in the sloka? But in the previous one, where only Brahma is speaking to
Krishna.
Krishna,
And Krishna is
Vishnu,
speaking to Brahma.
Brahma. But suddenly here, we come here.
No, because all of this is being heard by Vidura from Maitreya Muni. Maitreya Muni is narrating everything.
Oh, okay. Then,
See, there are different levels
yeah.
going on.
Yeah, so Maitreya Muni is talking to Vidura, and Sukadeva Goswami got it from Vidura?
Sukadeva Goswami, he's Vyasadeva's son, right?
Yeah.
So he got his knowledge from Vyasadeva. And he's giving his knowledge to Parikshit Maharaj.
Yeah.
And
That
then,
I got it.
And
So,
then Sutta Goswami is sitting down hearing the discussion between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit. And then he's speaking in Mishranya to a large assembly of great devotees led by Sonaka Rishi. So you have all these levels of
okay.
discussion going
So
on.
when did he spoke to the audience after this is completed?
When did he? Who is he?
I mean, to the larger audience, what Sutta Goswami.
Yeah, name is Sharanya.
After
After hearing from
Sukadeva
Sukadeva Goswami.
talking to Parikshit Maharaj, after it's finished, then he went and spoke to the audience.
There was another audience. There was a big audience already with Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. Now there's another audience in Naimisharanya.
Okay, when he was speaking to Sukadeva Goswami, there are a lot of other munis also present
Yeah.
in the
Yes.
Naimiswaranya.
Yes. So there's like 3 levels.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah.
Even in the Gurukuls, kids used to know all of this by
You're
heart.
in the Gurukul now. Okay, we'll stop right there. Thank you. If you want to read the rest of chapter 87 in the Krishna book, do it, because there's a lot more information, a lot more nectar. I just read one part of it. 89. Is it 89? I'm sorry, 89. Excuse me, yeah.